Welcome. Today, I'm thrilled to have as my guest Dr. Thomas O'Brien. Dr. Tom holds teaching faculty positions with the Institute for Functional Medicine and the National University of Health Sciences. He's the author of the best-selling book, The Autoimmune Fix, which outlines the step-by-step development of degenerative diseases and shares tools to identify our disease process years before the symptoms are obvious. Dr. Tom is founder of the website, thedoctor.com, and the visionary behind the Gluten Summit. Dr. Tom, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Dr. Tom, you are known as one of the world's experts on gut health. I'd like to start by asking you, what is functional medicine, and where do EMF exposures from cell phones, etc., fit into this approach to health?
Functional medicine is an approach to taking care of your body to identify what's out of balance and then how to fix it. That when people understand it, everybody wants a functional medicine practitioner as part of their healthcare team, because it just makes sense. So here's the example that I often use about functional medicine. When you go to see a doctor because you have some symptoms, maybe it's some gut symptoms, or maybe it's some symptoms of blood sugar problems, or recurrent miscarriages, or recurrent seizures, or a child with autism or attention deficit, it doesn't matter. But when you go to see a doctor with these symptoms, it's like you've fallen over a waterfall and you've crashed into the pond below. You know, and you swim up to the surface and you spit out the water. You just, oh, thank God I'm alive, right? And you're trying to stay afloat in this pond of your symptoms. But it's really difficult. The water's very turbulent because the waterfall keeps falling into the pond. You keep living the lifestyle that's caused the problems, that put you in the pond of diabetes, or in the pond of recurrent miscarriages, or in the pond of seizures. It doesn't matter what the symptoms are. You're in the pond of those symptoms. And everybody's looking for the life jacket to keep you afloat in the pond. Mm-hmm. That's really important. It's really important. And you use the less dangerous life jackets that you can be successful with, the least side effects. Mm-hmm. So you try the dietary nutritional approach first. If that doesn't work, you take the drugs. For a short period of time, you take the drugs, right? Yeah. You've got to stay afloat in the pond. But once you've got the life jacket, you have to swim over to the side of the pond, get out of the water, walk up the hill, and go back up the river and figure out, what is it that fell in the river and carried me downstream, and I fell into this pond of diabetes? What was it? And so functional medicine is, the technical term is going upstream to figure out what the heck happened to this person that has put them in the current situation they're in.
Yeah, great metaphor, the pond. Yeah. And so EMFs.
EMFs is a very common trigger that fell in the river that carried you downstream. We now know that EMF toxicity, when you cross the line, anything becomes toxic, anything. You know, the only food or substance you're supposed to take in every day of your life is water.
Yeah.
Everything else is seasonal in how it grows and everything, right? But water every day. But too much water and you drown, right? You cross the line. Well, too much EMF and you drown in electromagnetic imbalances that throw your body way out of balance, way out of balance. So EMFs, my new book will come out in about 5 months, and it's called You Can Fix Your Brain. And the basic platform is there are 4 categories that have to be looked at as to what happened to this person. you have to look at the biochemistry. That's blood tests, urine tests, saliva tests, hair tests. You have to look at the chemistry of what's going on in the body, the nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at the structure. That's the home of chiropractic and massage and orthopedic pillows and inserts in your shoes and how you sit in your car. So many people have their car seat going backwards and they drive like this, with their heads way out in front of their shoulders. That's all mechanical. So any problem can be caused by mechanical imbalance. Any problem in the world can be caused by that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at the emotional or spiritual. Many people have heard the term stinking thinking, and there is a lot of science to this now. We know that autoimmune diseases, depression, anxiety, they can be caused by how we are thinking or what our spirit is looking at in life. In the Blue Zones, the book on how to live a long, vital life, one of the 9 factors they found to be true for everyone. So I should tell you what the Blue Zones is. So scientists notice that there are certain cultures in the world where a large percentage of people, inordinate amount of people, live into their 80s, 90s, over 100, not on any medications, fully functional, contributing members to society. High percentages of people. Mm. And we've been in these places like Okinawa, Sardinia, Costa Rica, and they called these areas blue zones. Mm-hmm. So I heard the term and I said, blue zones. Oh, maybe it's the sky. Maybe it's, the pure sky, so there's no air pollution. Or maybe it's water, beautiful, pure water. There's no water pollution. They're drinking good water. And that's the common link. No. When the scientists circled a map of the world with all of these places, they used a blue highlighter. So they call them blue zones. Right?
Excellent.
I love those little behind the scenes stories, right? But there are these cultures all around the world that have similar high percentages of people that live into their 80s, 90s, over 100, fully functional.
Mm.
They found a blue zone just outside of Los Angeles. And I was like, what? That toxic cesspool, Los Angeles? Right? And it was Loma Linda, a suburb of Los Angeles. Well, Loma Linda is where the Seventh-day Adventists are highly concentrated. Lots of Seventh-day Adventists there. And so when scientists saw that, they said, wow, well, how do these people live their lives? Oh, it's just like these people in so many different ways. And they found there are 9 factors that are common to all blue zone cultures. There are 9 factors. And this book called The Blue Zones, this is where the pedal hits the metal. Mm-hmm. You want to live a long life, you read this book, because cultures all over the world are demonstrating this is what works. This is what works. And one of them is the belief in a power greater than you.
Mm.
However you refer to that, spirit, however you refer to it, you may call it Christianity, you could call it Hinduism, you could call it Judaism, Zoroastrianism, it doesn't matter, but you believe in something greater than you. Another one was that there was a significant other in your life. Even if they've passed and you're alone now, they hold a fond place in your heart. There's a fulfillment of your spirit that you've shared life with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is that you're looked upon as of value by society. You're not put out to pasture, sent to a retirement home. Don't bother us, go live with the other old people. That you take care of the grandchildren or something, that you've got a role. So this spirit aspect of life is a really important part. So that's the third part of the 4 platforms. Remember the first one, biochemistry, structure, spirit or emotional, and the fourth one is electromagnetic.
Okay.
Any health problem may be caused by electromagnetic pollution. Any health problem. It doesn't matter. Diabetes, brain dysfunction, cognitive decline, recurrent seizures, attention deficit, kidney stones. It doesn't matter. There are studies, hundreds and hundreds of studies now on electromagnetic pollution and how it might affect your body.
Yeah.
Now, just a way to make this connection of the link between health concerns and electromagnetics, all of us have heard about the term, many of us have not experienced it, but you've heard about acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
And acupuncture is a treatment protocol from the East that goes back 5,000 years. They've been doing this for 5,000 years. This is not some new fling fad. It's been around a long, long time. And what they've learned over the centuries is that you put a needle in a certain spot. Like, for example, if you take your child to the dentist for the first time and you put a needle right where the crease ends, when you bring your thumb next to you, that crease right there, you put a needle right there in that point, LI4, large intestine 4, you put a needle in there, and the dentist can clean your child's teeth and work in there without using any anesthetics. But if the first time the child goes to the dentist, they get anesthetics, anesthesia of some type, then never will, as far as I know, LI4 work. So once the mindset is when someone goes in the mouth, it's really going to hurt, they're going to numb me, but it's going to hurt a lot, then the mindset stays in there. But if you get here first with LI4, you create an electromagnetic flow. Acupuncture works by electromagnetics. Mm-hmm. You create an electromagnetic balance in your body for the head and neck area so that the potential assault is not recognized as an assault. That's just one example of many. Yeah. But acupuncture, that millions and millions of people have received acupuncture, works by treating points that balance your electromagnetics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it was a famous case of acupuncture working was actually President Nixon, which used it. He was having certain health challenges. But it's true. We are electromagnetic beings, are we not? And yes. So obviously you have realized the importance of EMFs because it's one of these four aspects here that you're talking about.
In my first few weeks of my education back in 1978, I saw this notice at school that Dr. Sheldon Deal, Mr. Arizona, was going to be coming and speaking this weekend. So I thought, I don't have anything to do. And I didn't know anything. I'm just starting my education, in healthcare. I'll go listen to this guy. I thought, he's Mr. Arizona. He's going to be a healthy guy. He's got something good to say. So he was fascinating. He was a really fascinating guy. But he did a demonstration. And back then, 1978, that's when color televisions first came on the market, right? So there was a color television in the lecture room, turned on, but with the sound turned off, and just staring at the picture. So, that's very cool. That's very cool. And Dr. Deal walked over to his briefcase, opened the briefcase, pulled out a bar magnet about the size of an iPhone 8, pulled out his bar magnet, held it up like this, walked up to the telephone, walked up to the television, the picture turned upside down.
Yeah.
He walked away, it went right side up. He walked towards it, it went upside down. He walked away, it went right side up. And he said, that's what electromagnetic pollution does to your brain. It just throws everything out of balance. It just gets altered. And we learned early on about this term neurological switching, that when we're switched, and you say right when you mean left, very often some children will write backwards when they're writing their name. They're switched. They're just altered. It's kind of a twisted brain function. And that's just electromagnetics. And when you balance their electromagnetics, they start writing correctly. Yeah. You no longer say right when you mean left. Those things just go away because you're more aligned now and more balanced. So that was Dr. Deal. introducing that to me. Then a year later, in 1979, because I looked at the research a little bit back then on this stuff, on electromagnetics, and 1979, I found a research paper that identified that if people live within a quarter mile of high power electrical wires, it increased the incidence of childhood leukemia.
Correct. Dramatically. Yeah, the LEPA study.
And then in 1982, a paper on the same type of wires with adults and increases in cancer. Mm-hmm. And then in 1991, a paper on if you sleep under an electric blanket, women breast cancers increased by 31%.
Correct.
And it's just you're throwing your electricity in your body, throwing it out of balance, which affects how the cells communicate to each other. Every cell. What cell? Every cell.
Yeah.
So your immune system may be out of balance. Your liver to detox chemicals may be out of balance. Your brain may be out of balance. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now there are hundreds and hundreds of studies on this. And it's so wonderful that you are putting together this summit where people can learn so much more about the toxicity of the world around us. You want to know how toxic the world is, or what you're being bombarded by? Just go to your phone, turn it on, and go to settings, and go to Wi-Fi, and look and see how many networks you can connect to.
Yeah.
That means, and right now where I'm sitting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 different networks here where I'm sitting that I could connect to. And that means that electromagnetic frequency is all around me. I'm being bathed by it all the time. Now it's minor. And there is no evidence that any electromagnetic frequency from these wireless networks causes cancer. There's no evidence when you're exposed to it. It doesn't do it like that.
No.
But it's the long-term, constant, minute exposures throw you out of balance, that creates long-term problems.
Yes.
And the way the industry has gotten away with this is that they say, look, if I take human cells and I turn on a wireless network right next to them, the cells don't form cancer. There's no evidence they do. Well, but turn it on and leave it there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And see what happens to the cells.
Yes.
There was a really famous experiment that you may be familiar with. I've just heard about it. I haven't read it. High school kids, about a year or 2 years ago.
Yes.
And they were going to germinate some seeds.
CREST. Yes, the CREST experiment.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want to grow? Do you want your cells to regenerate? I mean, every cell in your body regenerates. Mrs. Patient, you have an entire new body every 7 years. Some cells regenerate very quickly, like the inside lining of your guts every 3 to 5 days. Yeah. Some cells are very slow, like bone cells. But every 7 years, you have a whole new body. Do you want to regenerate a healthier cell? Or do you want to regenerate a weak and vulnerable and dysfunctional cell? That's determined. The result is determined by the environment in which you set up for that cell to grow.
Yeah.
And that environment is determined by electromagnetics, by biochemistry, the food that you eat, the beverages you drink. That creates the environment in us that determines what kind of cells we regenerate.
Yeah, so it's all these things. And as you say, the cancer, it's wrong really to look at cancer because there is this latency period and it's misleading, and that's what the industry's, the telecom industry wants, is to say, well, look, there's no proof about the cancer, but there is a lot of proof pointing to this, and certainly it is a question of time, and it would appear latency.
Right, like children that live within a quarter mile of high-power tension wires, they live there, so eventually they have a much higher incidence of leukemia.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen the day they move into a house within a quarter mile of high-power tension wires, so you can't say high-power tension wires cause leukemia.
Yeah.
You can't say that.
Yeah.
But it's more than a coincidence that there's a more than 30% increase in leukemia, kids that live near high power tension wires.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the gut a little bit if we can, because this is your specialty, isn't it? And because, there's more and more people suffering from food sensitivities and intolerances. Can you just explain to us, why gut health is so critical to our overall health?
Oh, my goodness, yes. There are a number of different concepts. I mean, this is a course that would take 3 or 4 months.
Of course.
But the big picture overview, there are a few basic concepts that are really important. And maybe the top one, most scientists now agree, the most important organ in the body, the most influential organ on the rest of the health of the body is the microbiome.
Yeah.
What's inside the tube of your gut. Mrs. Patient, your intestines are a tube. It starts at the mouth, goes to the other end. It's about 20, 25 feet long, winds around in the inside of your abdomen there. The inside of the tube is lined with cheesecloth so that only certain size molecules can get through into the bloodstream. And then we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But inside this tube is your whole microbiome. There are 10 times more cells of the bacteria in your gut, 10 times more cells than all the human cells you've got.
Yeah.
All your bone cells, muscle cells, skin cells. And you ask the question, well, that doesn't make sense. How is that possible? 10 times more cells in that little gut area than there is for this whole big body. How is that possible? Well, because the inside of your gut is lined with shag carpeting. And the shag carpeting, in the U.S. we call it shag carpeting. I think you call it pile.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the pile is lined with cheesecloth. And so that's how we absorb our nutrients. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But in between the pile is thousands and thousands and thousands of bacteria just packed in there. Just really solid, packed in there. Now the tube, it's a hollow tube that food can go down, but the pile, the shag carpeting, facing into the tube is just packed full of thousands and thousands and thousands of bacteria, different types of bacteria. How's that? Well, what does that mean? Well, if you have a beachfront area, and it's a half a mile long, that's a nice little walk that you can do. Will take you maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But if you have a beachfront area that's a half a mile long, but it's got a lot of little bays that go in and out, and you're walking it, now it's going to take you 2 hours to walk it because there's so much more surface, right? That's why we've got the pile or the shag is more surface area. And then the bacteria, the microbiome, is just packed in there. Mm-hmm. Now, because of the large number of bacteria, we have 100 to 150 times more genes in that bacteria than in the human genome. We know there's about 23,000 genes in humans. Well, there's about 3 million genes in the microbiome in your gut. Now, the genes determine function. Mm-hmm. So the genes turn on the bacteria to make these chemicals that send messages out for function. For every one message from the brain going to the gut, there are 9 messages from the gut going up to the brain.
Yeah.
And the messages from the gut are telling the brain how much hormone to make, how much neurotransmitter, all of that. That control comes from the gut. So when you've got depression or if you've got anxiety, you don't treat your brain, you treat your gut. Now, you may need a life jacket for a while so that you can function in society. And if you need the drugs, you take them. Mm-hmm. But you have to fix the gut to get to the trigger that sets up the whole brain dysfunction and the anxiety and depression that people get. Mm-hmm. So your gut controls everything. Your gut controls your heart function. It controls your lung function. It controls your liver, your spleen function. The gut, the microbiota in the gut are the control makers. So you want to fix a disease you've got, you always have to include fixing your gut. Always. Always.
Yeah. It's amazing. It is amazing, this how the gut works, this relationship between the gut and the brain, and how, I mean, I've heard this before, and yet people are just, we're not really aware of it, are we? That there's this interaction going on, and how important the gut is.
We think it's okay to pour Coca-Cola down there or Mountain Dew. You know,
yes.
We think it's okay because we don't feel any problems. You know, it tastes good. Well, the scientists there have formulated these products to stimulate the addictive flavors for your taste buds, to send the message up to the areas of your brain for addiction, so people get addicted to these things. It's almost a crime when you learn how these food scientists work to make sure your taste buds say, I want more, I want more, I want more.
Yes.
Of this. But when we drink a Coca-Cola, see, we have the same body as our ancestors thousands of years ago, the same body. And back then, what did they have to drink? Water. What else did they have to drink? Nothing.
Yeah.
It was just water. I mean, you don't see orange juice coming out of the mountains, right? Or Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola coming out of the mountains. So humans don't have any protection against toxic beverages, except for taste. But we don't taste beverages. We go glug, 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 glug. We go right past our taste buds. What's the purpose of taste buds? The primary purpose of taste buds is to make sure you're not chewing on something that's poison. So you ooh, and you spit it out right away. That's the purpose of taste buds. And we bypass all of that with our beverages. When nature set up, or the creator set up our system, it was to live on planet Earth. And there's nothing to drink on planet Earth except water. And so, you know, we don't have any protection like we do for different foods. So we drink this stuff down and it just chews up our gut, chews it up, causes lots of inflammation. You know, I tell children, when children come into the practice and they drink pop, I ask the parents ahead of time, is it okay if we do a little experiment with your child? Yes, of course. So I tell the child, next time you come in, bring in a can of Coke. Don't open it, just bring it in. And bring in a dime with you.
Yes.
The kid looks. And so he comes in and says, okay, open up the Coke. Okay, good. Now, look at the dime. You see what and he looks at the dime. He doesn't know what he's looking for. So you see the lines around the dime on the rim, the little lines there. Says, yeah, okay. Put the dime in the Coke. Leave it there 24 hours. And when you're home tomorrow about this time, you're going to do the experiment with your mom. And you put the dime, you just pour the Coke out and let the dime come out, pour it into a glass and get the dime and look at the dime. The metal is gone off of the rims of the dime. Coke eats metal. It eats it up. What do you think it's doing to your gut?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So we do that.
And I've heard the same story, but with a penny. When I was a child, I actually saw this, and but I still kept drinking the Coke, unfortunately, because it tastes good. And
there wasn't the addictive quality.
Information out there, and even though you see the penny thing, and but let me ask you about something else. So, you know, there's quite a lot of research about how EMFs impact the blood-brain barrier. And this is going back years now. But what about this thing we call the blood-gut barrier? You know, this protective barrier in your stomach that enables proper digestion and nutrition. Could EMFs in your view, impact this BGB?
Oh, there's no question, no question. In the new book, we talk about it a lot. And the term I use is B4, capital B, the number 4. And I'm hoping the whole world will be talking about B4 next year and forever after that.
Yeah.
B4 stands for a breach of the blood-brain barrier. A breach of the blood-brain barrier. Just like you can get a leaky gut. When people get a leaky gut, most often the antibodies that are elevated that cause the leaky gut, the same antibodies will cause a leaky brain, a breach of the blood-brain barrier. So let's talk for a minute about these barriers and what the purpose of these barriers are. So I talk about cheesecloth. And, with cheesecloth, you pour the gravy into cheesecloth, only the liquid comes out on all the other side. All the clumps, they can't get through. They're too big. They can't get through the cheesecloth, right? That's the way our food is absorbed. That when you eat a protein, think of protein like a pearl necklace. Hydrochloric acid undoes the clasp of the pearl necklace. That acid's made in your stomach. It undoes the clasp of the pearl necklace. Now you have a string of pearls. Your enzymes act as scissors, snipping away at the pearl necklace to make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it comes down to each pearl of the pearl necklace. That's called an amino acid. And those amino acids can go right through the cheesecloth into the bloodstream. And then your body uses those as the building blocks to make new bone cells and muscle cells and hormones and all of that. But what happens when you get a tear in the cheesecloth, now larger molecules that are being broken down, but they're too big to get through the cheesecloth, these larger molecules, if they bump up against the tear in the cheesecloth, now they go right through the tear into the bloodstream. They're called macromolecules, big molecules. And your immune system says, whoa, what's this? This isn't good for me. I better fight this. And if that macromolecule was to tomatoes, that a piece of the tomato just got through the tears in the cheesecloth before there'd been enough time to snip it down smaller and smaller and smaller, and the macromolecule is tomato that gets in the bloodstream, your immune system makes antibodies to tomatoes. Now you're allergic to tomatoes.
Yeah.
And these are the people that do a blood test for 90 different foods, and they find out they're sensitive to 20 or 25 foods. They say, oh my God, that's everything I eat. Well, of course it is. Your immune system's trying to protect you because you have these tears in the cheesecloth. Now, that's the visual that I've used for a number of years to explain leaky gut. The absolute same principle works with leaky brain. When you get tears in the brain cheesecloth, the cheesecloth around the brain called the blood-brain barrier, when you get tears, now larger molecules that are in the bloodstream, and they're good for you in general, but they're too big to get into the brain, they now get through into the brain. And the immune system in the brain is the most powerful. We have 4 different immune systems in our body. The most powerful one are the glial cells in the brain. Most immune cells fire chemical bullets like a high-powered rifle to destroy whatever is a threat, but the glial cells fire bazookas. There's like, boom. Nothing is allowed to get into the brain. You have to destroy that right away. Not a problem, except if there's a tear in the blood-brain barrier, this happens continually. Bazookas, 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 firing off, explosions of inflammation in your brain, and the collateral damage starts damaging the brain tissue itself. You get more inflammation from that, and that triggers the whole neurodegenerative process, developing brain diseases. Now, I tell you all of that because a cell phone next to your ear breaches the blood-brain barrier.
Yes.
It'll cause B4, a breach of the blood-brain barrier. That's why you don't put these things to your ear. You use a headset. Yeah. You don't use a Bluetooth, because with a Bluetooth, I gave a talk last night to a few hundred people. It was really nice talk. this woman comes up to me afterwards, and she's probably in her 70s, and you can tell her body's wearing out. And she's trying to write down everything I say. Just write it all down, write it all down, write it all down. And she's not processing information very well. And you can see that she's having a real hard time in processing information and thinking about what she just heard and asking the right questions. And she was getting frustrated. She was really getting really frustrated. And so I said to her at one point, "What's that thing in your ear underneath your hair?" And she said, "It's a Bluetooth." And I said, "What are you doing with a battery next to your brain when you're concerned about your brain function?" "Well, I don't wear it unless I'm driving." You're not driving here. You've been in this lecture for 2 hours. Why do you have this thing in your ear? "Well, I wear it when I'm driving." You're not driving right now. So I'm not talking about how dangerous it is. I like to know that I'm safe and protected. What do you mean? "Well, I can always just push the button and call somebody." Okay, but it's a battery next to your brain, and it causes a breach of the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
And that was just more than she could process. But I tell you this, for everyone who's listening, stop using Bluetooth. Use corded headsets.
Yeah. So we're going to come to, I'll ask you, I'd like to talk about that more specifically, your tips in terms of EMFs. But firstly, if I could ask you for your 3 top tips for improving gut health, and maybe that's a bit of a squeeze because I know you've written a whole book on this, but maybe if you can try and compress it.
Sure. Number 1, across the board for everyone, when you wake up in the morning, most people go to the bathroom. That's the first thing they do. Most people. The very next thing you do, and if you don't go to the bathroom first, this is the first thing you do. Drink 2 big glasses of water right away. Right away. Now, I'm going to date myself here, and many younger people won't know this, but you used to, like, when you're going to go on a trip in your car, you had to check the oil in the engine, make sure the gas tank was full, and check the water level in the battery. And batteries used to have a clip that you can pull off, and it pulls off for like 3 cells, and you look in there, is there water visible in the battery? If not, you just pour water in there, then put the clip back on, because the body needs enough hydration, enough water to send the electrical charge to every cell in your body. And you'll say, "Oh, I don't like drinking water." Make yourself. "Well, I like orange juice." You're not built of orange juice. You're built of water. Yeah. It's critically important that we have enough water. And you'll find within 3-4 days of doing this, you look forward when you get up and, "Oh, I need to get my water." Because you just notice you just feel a little more. You know, there's a little more of you going on when you have enough water.
Okay.
That's the first thing. The second thing, I'm trying to think of the big picture ones here for you.
Yeah.
The second thing is avoid GMO foods at all costs. Always eat organic or biodynamic. In Europe, they call it bio. In the US, we call it organic. But every chance you get, you always buy organic. And if they don't have the organic vegetables you want, ask for the manager of the produce department and say, "Do you have organic broccoli?" "No, ma'am, we don't." I say, "Well, why not?" I said, "Well, we'll look into it." And he's brushing you off, and you know it. But when he gets 30 people a week, every week, asking, "Do you have organic red peppers?" "No, ma'am, we don't." "Do you have organic garlic?" If he gets 30 people a week, every week, asking the questions, just being not even a nuisance, but asking the question, but it takes like a few minutes of your time when you're pushing the cart down the aisles shopping to find the manager of the produce department and ask the question. "We don't have time for this." Well, then you're going to eat the crap food that's available for you.
Yeah.
Right? The only way change occurs in businesses is if it's profitable.
Yeah.
And when they know that there's a market for organic produce, they'll start putting their foot in the water, getting more organic produce for you. But if you don't ask, they won't do it, right?
Correct.
So, number 2, get organic, get biodynamic. If it's not available in the store, ask why not? Why don't you have this? And ask every week or every 2 weeks. Ask for your beef to be grass-fed beef, for your chickens to be free-range chickens. You ever see a video, if you want just a horror story, just go to YouTube and look at videos on raising chickens. And when you see there's 4 in a cage, they can't move, they're just there, and their excrement is all just piled down underneath in these cages, and they're so hyper strung, but they get the eggs. But these chickens, they're just full of stress hormones, and they peck each other to death. That's how they die eventually, is the other birds in the cage peck at them to death. And that's the chicken meat that you're buying in the stores. And that's the eggs that you're buying for your family. Now, eggs are good for you. Chicken is good for you. But good chicken is good for you.
Yeah.
Bad chicken is debatable, right? We have to start waking up as a culture and demand more quality, basic food, just basic food. How bad is it? I have to tell you how bad it is now. I'm going to tell you 2 studies. The World Wildlife Fund published a study about 2 years ago now. Between 1970 and 2011, so that's 41 years, there has been a 58% reduction in populations of all mammal species across the planet. Anything with a spine. 58% reduction in insects, in birds, in mammals, elephants, jaguars, badgers, porcupines. 58% fish. 58% reduction is the average. For the birds, the total average was 35%. For mammals living near fresh water, it's 78%. 78% of all the beavers are gone. The polar bears, they're gone. They're gone in 41 years. They're gone. Let that sink in. Why is it 78% such a high number around fresh water? They're drinking the water. And if you were drinking the water coming out of the streams by your house, you'd get cancer quicker and you'd be unable to reproduce just like the animals. So the population numbers would go down. Second study, between 1974 and 2011, so 37 years. First study, 41 years. Second study, same time period, 37 years. They looked at 186 studies. This is called a meta-analysis. They looked at 186 studies on one subject. The subject was sperm count in healthy men all over the world. Not men that can't reproduce, but healthy men. There's a 59% reduction in sperm count in 37 years for healthy men. Scientists worry about extinction of a species at 72% reduction in sperm count. We're at 59% in 37 years. What do you think is going to happen in the next 20 years? Is it going to get better? There's no evidence that's going to happen, and it's just continuing to get worse. Now, so we've got the mammals that are disappearing in 41 years, 58% across the board, they're gone. And we have humans with a 59% reduction in sperm count. And the scientists are saying somewhere between 30 to 50 years, humans won't be able to reproduce if this keeps up. So where's this coming from? It's the toxic chemicals that we're being exposed to every day of our lives. It's in the antibiotics that they spray on the food, the insecticides and the pesticides, the growth hormones, all of these little, by themselves, you're exposed to a little insecticide. There's no evidence that if you have this much exposure, like what's in food, it's a problem for you. And that's what these companies get away with, is by saying it like that. There's no evidence for this. Let's measure how much insecticide is in broccoli. Yeah. And it measures to be really small. Show me the studies that say that's a problem. You can't. There are none. but this stuff accumulates in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And when it accumulates, you got a huge problem. I'll give you the example of the accumulation, and then I'll stop on this. In Denmark, they had a commission do a study for 3 years to look and see, should we recommend women breastfeed their first baby? They studied this for 3 years because there's a whole lot of evidence it's not a good idea. Wait, what? What? How can that be possible? Breast milk's the best thing in the world for a newborn baby. Everybody knows that. Yes. But these toxic chemicals that we're exposed to in these little amounts every day, I mean, the flame retardant chemicals in the bed gear that we sleep under, the blankets and the comforters. How many people do you know that have ever been saved in a fire because they slept under flame retardant clothing or flame retardant blankets? I've never heard of anybody. But these compounds, these chemicals leak out into the air. You can't smell them, but they're there. You sleep under it. You breathe this stuff all night long. This stuff accumulates in your tissue, and it accumulates in the estrogen-loving cells in the male and female body. So in Denmark, they love a fish. You know, in the fjords that run there, they're long, narrow, deep fjords where they get the fish, and they eat a lot of fish. Well, over the last 50 years, all of the chemicals they've used in the farms, on the crops, spraying chemicals and all that, that stuff runs down into the fjord when it rains. You know, the rains carry stuff into the streams come down into the fjords. All of these toxic chemicals accumulate in the fjords. They're in the fish. And then these people eat the fish.
Mm.
And when they eat the fish, there's only a minor amount in the fish. There's no evidence that that's bad, you know, but it accumulates. That minor amount in the fish you ate on Monday accumulates in your estrogen-loving cells, and the minor amount in the fish that you ate on Wednesday accumulates in your estrogen-loving cells. Now do that maybe 3 times a week, 52 weeks in a year, you know, so that's 150 times in a year, these minor amounts, year after year after year after year. So they accumulate in estrogen-loving cells, like the breast. Now mom gets pregnant for the first time, healthy pregnancy, healthy delivery, and the message from the brain says, okay, breast, let's start making some breast milk. And the breast milk comes from the fat cells in the breast, which are full of 25 years of these toxic chemicals.
Yeah.
So the breast milk coming out in the firstborn is very, very toxic to the baby's brain. Very toxic. So they studied this for 3 years. And they finally came back and said, well, we think the benefits outweigh the risks. Personally, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But what I do with every woman of childbearing age, and every time I talk about this in these kinds of interviews, every woman of childbearing age needs to detox her breasts before she gets pregnant. Get this stuff out so you have a healthier baby.
Yeah.
So we have to start thinking that way. We have to, because the toxicity of the world around us is overwhelming. The formaldehyde in the cupboards that we have, in the cabinets that we have, the stuff outgasses, right? So it's all of these insults, the chemical insults, the structural insults, the electromagnetic insults. It's all of these insults that come in that affect the function of our brains and our entire body. So anywhere that we can reduce the insult in our bodies, it's a smart thing to do. It's critically important because scientists are now talking about the 6th extinction. Just go to Google and type in the 6th extinction. And here come the research papers. Humans are at risk of going extinct because of all of this toxicity. And we all have our heads buried in the sand. Oh, that's kind of interesting, but I'm too busy to put any attention to it. No, we're just, I'm going to eat fish. Well, but farm-raised fish is full of more toxic chemicals than you can imagine. I mean, So you want wild-caught fish, free-range chickens, grass-fed beef. Those are basics to ask for when you go shopping.
Yeah, and it's all these minute, different, just a myriad of toxic exposures, isn't it? That everybody pretty much around the planet, less so in these blue zones that you were talking about at the beginning. Right. That's why they're faring better than most of us. But and so this is a problem. And yeah, it's just coming at us from all angles, really.
That's exactly right, and it's accumulative.
And it's cumulative.
We all
if we don't do something about it, by detox or by limit, because our body's always detoxing, yeah.
It's trying to.
But the assault is so great that we're in a state of overwhelm, so the body can't do its job anymore.
Exactly right. Remember that our bodies are designed to live on planet Earth. We have the same mechanisms. Our bodies are the same as our ancestors 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Very same.
Yeah.
They didn't have to detox any of this stuff. Our detox pathways are prepared to live on the planet as it was thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And we can handle a little more stress than that, but we can't handle a lot more than that. That's why we have to help our bodies, support our bodies in detoxing, because the overwhelm to our bodies is so high now. Yeah. This causes miscarriages, brain dysfunction, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autism, attention deficit, seizures, kidney problems, liver problems, spleen problems. The world of toxicity is so overwhelming, it's very difficult for people to get their heads around it. It's very difficult. So there's two things that I recommend. You asked for three things about the gut. I've given you two. Yeah. There's a couple things that I recommend. First, embrace the idea base hits win the ball game. You know, in baseball, if you go for the home run, you strike out a lot, right?
I was hoping you wasn't going to talk about baseball, because I know nothing. If you talk about cricket, I'm like,
I got it.
I'm just kidding.
So I know, I fully understand. I just don't know that game.
I'm just kidding.
But the idea is you keep going for the little wins, just the little wins every day, the little win. I don't really want to do that, but okay, I will. It's not that big a deal. I'll do that. That's a win. That's a win. And if you do that every day, it becomes a habit eventually. And then you do the next little win, and then the next little win. Because this is so overwhelming, people don't know where to start. You start with what's right in front of you. You listen to this summit. You listen to all the great speakers with all of their expertise. And then you listen to it again and again and again. So first one, base hits win the ball game. Second one, 1 hour a week. If you give 1 hour a week, specifically on the topic of protecting your body from toxins. So you're going to read something, you're going to listen to an interview here about electromagnetic pollution. You're going to spend an hour a week, that's it, on this topic. Within 6 months, you've spent 24 focused hours on this, 24, 25 focused hours on this. And you really have got it down for you and your family about detox and how to protect yourself.
Yeah.
If you try to get it all at once, it's so overwhelming that people throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, you just can't do it. But 1 hour a week, everyone can do.
Yeah.
Everyone can do.
Yeah. So
and there's one more. There's one more. And it's a Tibetan word. And I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. Maitri, Maitri, Maitri. It means loving kindness and an unconditional friendship with oneself. So be kind to yourself and know that there's no way to absorb all of this information that you're going to get in this summit and all the other wonderful summits that you might come across. It's impossible to absorb all this information. be kind to yourself, that you're going to absorb what you can. And then you allocate 1 hour a week to absorb a little bit more and a little bit more. Those are the people that win in the big picture.
Yeah.
They're the ones that win. 6 months from now, a year from now, you got it down.
Yeah. Great advice. Baby steps. That's another way of putting it. And you know what you were saying here about this, how we've got, basically the same biology as our ancestors. My reasoning on this is what I call the caveman test, and I do this quite often. And it's like you ask that question: well, would the caveman do this? Would the caveman have done this? Would the caveman have eaten this? And if it's no, and if you're saying no all day long, then you've got a problem. You're doing something wrong. You're doing something. You're not respecting nature. Yeah,
that's a really good point. And here's a takeaway from that one. Does the caveman's body have protection against electromagnetic pollution? And the answer is there was no electromagnetic pollution. So that's not a response that the body has developed natural defense against. There was none. So to speak, of course, the sun and sunshine, they were out in the sun all the time. But aside from that, there was no other electromagnetic pollution.
Yeah.
So we don't have innate mechanisms to protect us from all of the electromagnetic pollution around us. We don't have them. So our immune system has to allocate its precious resources that are trying to protect you from bisphenol A, the chemical in plastics, one of the chemicals in plastics, mercury that's in the fish, lead that's in the air, and if your home is older than 1978, it's in the air from the paint. The immune system is trying to protect us from all this other stuff, and it has to allocate some of its defenses against electromagnetics.
Correct.
And we just don't have the capability of protecting ourselves from all of these toxins that we're exposed to. The result is you get diseases.
Yes.
You get brain tumors. The incidence of brain tumors in young people has gone through the roof in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable how it's grown, like no other cancer. Mm-hmm. And it's because these young people start putting cell phones to their ears when they're 3 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. So we don't have, as you say, we don't have this innate ability to protect ourselves from these EMFs. Right. And our bodies, we get in this state of overwhelm. And so we get sick and our body's going to fight or flight and there's just a whole cascade of effects. So because our bodies can't do this, it means we have to do it. We have to do it consciously, yes? And that's what I want to ask you is what do you do in your life? So you're aware of this EMF problem. You learned about it very early on in the 40 years ago, 1978. Yeah, 40 years ago. It's amazing. So already the idea was there, the information came, and then it grew and grew and grew. And you read about the 1979, the LIPA study, and then the other studies you were mentioning. And so all this, you acquired this certain understanding of the dangers of these EMFs. So that is my question. What do you do in your life? What can you share about some tips with
Good
people
question.
about how you deal with EMFs?
Good question. First thing, I avoid them whenever I can, as much as possible. So I use a corded headset or the speaker in the car when I'm driving. Mm-hmm. I rarely ever put the phone to my ear. Rarely ever do I do that. It's just not worth it. I'd rather answer and put it on speaker, hello, and talk like this. And, people know that I'm not disrespectful of them by doing that. It's rather just to keep this battery away from my brain. I do my best to get my feet on the earth every day, not on concrete, on the earth. Most people have seen the movie Pretty Woman when Richard Gere walks barefoot in the grass and is just feeling the grass. That concept helps to ground you when your electromagnetics are way out of balance. Walking on the earth. just walking on the earth. Take your shoes off, walk on the grass when you can, go to the park, take the dog for a walk, go to the park, and just walk on the earth, on the grass, on the dirt, whenever you can. Third, I take adaptogenic herbs that help connect me back to the energy of the planet.
Wow.
There is a wave called the Schumann waves that encircles the planet, 7.83 megahertz. And that is the baseline that our brains and our bodies are supposed to be operating on all the time. And the more disconnected we are with the earth and the earth energy because of electromagnetic pollution, the more off we are from the Schumann wave. So I take adaptogenic herbs for that. It works really well, really well. When you talk to people that take, the product is called Ultimate Energy.
Okay.
And there's 3 products. Ultimate Energy is the base. And then to enhance male function a little bit more, it's Ultimate Energy plus a few others. That's called Mojo 8.5. And for women, Ultimate Energy plus a few herbs for their hormones is called Thrive-Agen. The company is sunhorseenergy.com. Now, for full disclosure, I'm the medical director of that company.
Okay.
I've helped to design these products because they really work, and they just bring up your core energy, and they help you to get grounded and connected. And when you measure, the Schumann wave is higher. The Schumann wave frequency, 7.83, is much more dominant for people that are on these herbs. So I do that to help, and it helps quite a bit.
Terrific. Okay. We're running out of time here. This has been fascinating speaking with you. Any last advice you want to share on this subject? So EMFs, the gut, I think it's nutrition.
I think it's really, really important that people understand they're going to be overwhelmed. Even my friends, doctors who read my book, listened to some of the talks, they're overwhelmed. It's just so much new information that they're not familiar with. And they say, this all makes sense, but it's so overwhelming, they don't know where to start. So a really important concept in the functional medicine world, going back upstream, for the patient is Maitri or Maitri. Be kind to yourself. Know that you're doing your best. You're going to mess up. Everybody messes up. You're going to mess up. It's okay. Just pick yourself up and get back in the game again. And go for baby steps. Don't go for home runs. And just consistently allocate 1 hour a week. You do that 1 hour a week, you will win. You will win the ball game of long and vibrant health. Every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock after dinner, or every Sunday after church, whatever the time is, but 1 hour a week, every week. And you just study this topic a little bit more. You explore it. And because it's the baby steps that you can digest and absorb that become a part of who you are.
Yeah. And I'm listening to you speaking here, and I think you sound very determined. This message is very clear. And I think that is, you need that also, do you not? You need a certain determination.
I'm sorry that happened. Just a minute. Okay?
Yeah, a certain belief and a certain determination in what you're doing. You can't just kind of do this haphazardly.
Most people aren't blessed the way that I was blessed. I'll tell you this story because it's really interesting. I had a girlfriend a few years ago who we were planning on getting married, and she was going to go through medical school, and she is a nutritionist, studied my work, and we became connected, and she came to California to live with me, and she was going to go, she's going to go to medical school, and she's brilliant and a great speaker. And she was going to go out in the world and teach this message that I had been developing for the last 35 years. And I was going to stay home and be the house dad. Because I'm 66 now, and this was a few years ago. So I was 60, 61, I think. And I was going to be the house dad. And I was really looking forward to a family life. And I see young couples with little kids, and I go, oh, that'll be us soon. And, my mind was just really all there. Well, she decided that she didn't want this life, and so she went back to London. And I was just in a funk because it was out of the blue. I didn't know. There was no evidence. We didn't have any talk about it. It was just one day she said, I'm leaving, and she was gone. 8 months, I just really couldn't get my head on straight. My Schumann waves were gone. I was that grounded. I would do my work, and then I'd come home and just watch television on a big screen and eat popcorn. I was gone. And I decided I need to do something here. I need to do something to get out of this funk after 8 months. So I decided to see a psychic. This is Southern California. I had never been to this person. I never talked to this person. I didn't tell anyone I was going to see this person. I just made an appointment online. And so I go in for the appointment. I walk in the room. As I open the door, she's on the other side of the room on the phone. She goes, hi, come on in. And I start to walk in, and she goes, and she looks at me and goes, and she starts belly laughing, pointing at me. And I'm walking in the door. And then she says, you what? You were going to be a house dad? Oh, how ridiculous. There are millions of people waiting to hear from you. Your angels are laughing their head off. Come over here and sit down. And I just went. And all of that anxiety went like that. And I knew why I'm still on the planet. My dad died at an earlier age than me. I knew why I'm on the planet. And it's very clear. This is my gift.
Yeah.
If I can say it in a way that people can hear it.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself. Take baby steps, and you will win the ball game. Read my book, The Autoimmune Fix, and you will win the ball game.
Yeah.
So I've got angels behind me, I guess, just helping me to carry this message out.
I think so. And it's a wonderful message, and you've been a wonderful guest. You've shared some wonderful information. Would you just like to remind people that are watching, Dr. Tom, where they can find out more about what you do?
Oh, sure. Our website is thedoctor.com, the DR. Don't spell the word doctor out, thedr.com. And we have a gift for you that I'd like to give you. And my wife and I traveled the world, and we interviewed the world scientists, the very best in the world in immunology. And we talked about electromagnetics in a few of the talks. And we interviewed these experts. It's an event like your event. And then we interviewed the doctors who were doing the protocols the experts had researched. And then we interviewed the patients of the doctors who were complying with the recommendations. And the patients talked about reversing their multiple sclerosis, reversing their rheumatoid arthritis, reversing the autism, reversing psoriasis again and again and again. And we've been blessed to have over 500,000 people watch this.
Wow.
It's free. It's free for you. It's called Betrayal. And we will give you the link to post for people.
Sure.
So that they can just go watch it for free. And you hear the scientists talk about all of these different aspects of how your immune system, trying to protect you, is just overwhelmed by the amount of toxins that are coming in, including electromagnetic toxins.
Yeah.
And when you get the big picture and you approach this with the concept of baby steps and being kind to yourself, you will win the ballgame.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So on that note, many thanks, Dr. Tom. Excellent information. Everybody knows how to win the ball game. I didn't even know how to play the ball game before, but now I know how to win it. So that's fantastic. Many thanks. Take care. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much. Bye.